I'm proud to introduce author Jane Baird Warren to the program. Thank you so much today for joining us here on Primetime Local News to talk about your book, How to Be a Goldfish.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted.
So, what inspired you to write this book?
Okay, so it started as I wanted to write for children. By children, this is a middle grade book, but I was thinking of having a fun Parent Trap inspired book. I don't know if you remember the movie, and having two kids from very different walks of life who have no idea they're related, having them meet up, have an adventure, and Bob's your uncle. But then, I guess in all fairness, things started to get ugly in the world. They were happening south of the border, people were getting mean, and that kind of just seeped into my psyche. And then one day, and I was still writing away, but nothing was really congealing properly. And then one day I read a tweet from Barack Obama, who paraphrased Nelson Mandela. And he said, essentially, people aren't born hating. Somebody has to be taught to hate. And if they can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. And I thought, that's fantastic. And wouldn't it be great if I had two kids who had never been taught to hate and they could behave in such a way that that information would change the adults and the people around them. And so once I had that touchstone, I was a lot faster writing the book. So that's where that came from, I guess, south of the border.
Why is your book called How to Be a Goldfish?
When I was a kid, or a teenager, we had a cottage near Georgian Bay, and it had a pond, and my dad got some little store-bought goldfish, and he tossed them in, and those little things just grew. And I remember being amazed. And in the book, this David is my city character, the almost 12-year-old, and he arrives in this farm, in this rural setting where he's totally a fish out of water, and he's thrown in and needing to cope with some pretty big challenges. And Lizzie, the 13-year-old, says, you know what? You're a goldfish. He thinks it's an insult at first because he has red hair and goldfish are conceivably orange. But she doesn't mean it that way. She means it the same way my dad did, that look at you, you're coming here just like this, but we've thrown you into this rural situation and you grew, you can cope. So yeah, I'm not a comfortable city girl. I like visiting cities, but I'm a girl who's happier out in the country. As you can't see now, but I'm living out sort of woods on one side, lakes on the other.
What do you want people to know going into your book?
So I think I'd love kids to just pick it up and read it for fun. It's a dual narrative. So there's a 13-year-old girl character and an almost 12-year-old boy character, and they come at life from very different worlds. And I'd like it to still have that mysterious adventure. But I also would like it very much if an adult could pick it up and read it and go, oh yeah, I get that. I see where they're coming from. And so far it hasn't been out long enough that I have child responses, but I'm getting tons of adult responses, and that part feels really good.
So what made you decide to write a book for a younger audience?
I suppose it's a really involved story. When I started to do a master's in creative writing, I went to University of British Columbia because they have this optional residency program. And I was living in Europe at the time, so I could just fly in for the summer programs. I had no intention of writing for children, ever, ever, ever. I was going to write the great literary novel, and I signed up to do just that. But part of UBC's mandate is to expose writers to different genres. So I signed up for translation, and I signed up for children's writing. And when I took Kidlit with Glenn Hooser, who's won a Governor General's Award, he's a lovely man, he showed us all these amazing books that I never knew existed. I didn't read Kidlit as a kid. I went straight into adult books. And I thought, okay, you can write brilliant, deep, meaningful plots that kids will chew up and adore, but adults can read too. So I thought there's such a rich opportunity here to write something that way. And also, as an extra bonus, the Kidlit community is universal. So I'm living in Europe, and I can join organizations like SCBWI, Scooby, and I have chapters of people that I can meet with. I mean, my writing group when I lived in Europe was in Sweden, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, Wales, all over the world. So they're cuddly and they're kind. And back in Canada, we have Canscape, and they're even sweeter. They're delightful. So it's kind of hard to walk away from that kind of kindness and niceness when you've been exposed to it.
Now, you have said that most of the readers so far have been adults. What has the response been like from them who have read your book?
I think they're surprised that I wrote it. I think that might be the first one. I'm an introvert, but I'm one of those gregarious introverts that can be loud. And I think that they may be a little bit of surprise that there's that tenderness there. But I think overall, we're all suffering the same aches in society of people fighting and disagreeing and neighbors fighting neighbors. And they like the unity that the book brings and the fact that thematically, it's overall about being an ally and being a friend. So that's the bottom line. And again, the surprise that it all came from me, I suppose.
I'd like to thank you again so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Sarah. It was great meeting you.